Ain't never been to Tuscany and lied to somebody, but I am very much interested in dissecting the people who did. We're talking about Regé-Jean and Halle Bailey in You, Me, and Tuscany. So you and me are about to have a conversation about it right now, and I want to say this right here. Spoiler alert. Get up off this page if you can't watch this thing, or at least exit before this intro. And welcome back to another episode of the Daily Donna with me, your host, Dr. Donna Oriolo, sex and relationship therapist in Washington, D.C. metro area, author of Drink Water and Mind Your Business, a Black woman's guide to unlearning the BS and healing self-esteem. I liked this movie. It was so cute. It was classic rom-com. It was everything that you need. It gave you all the tropes that you're probably already thinking about. Now, where it comes to a spoiler alert, I was thinking, like, can you really spoil a movie that is a romantic comedy? We all know how it's going to end. If you have been a girly who has read a rom-com book, you've watched a rom-com movie. Can you really spoil an ending that we already know is going to happen? Methinks not. However, I am going to offer you this spoiler warning. Even before I can tell you what we're going to break down in this movie. So this is your moment. If you need to exit, to exit. Okay, now that it's just us to actually watch this movie in a timely fashion. Hey, girl, hey. So we are going to have us a conversation about the lessons this therapist learned in watching that particular movie. And probably a little bit, not really so much about what was learned, but what I got from the movie and what like stood out to me with my therapist's eyes, my therapist's mind, despite the fact that the therapist, I thought I left her at home. Whatever. All right. So we got to start with these characters and which characters specifically I'll be talking about. We're going to be talking about Halle Bailey's character, Anna, Regé-Jean's character, Michael, the Italian guy, Matteo, Francesca, the aunt, as well as Vincenzo, the father. Look, first things first. I like that. It seemed like they were trying to give us some like love triangle action with Halle, with Anna at the pinnacle of this thing. You've got Michael and then you've got Matteo. So what I actually noticed is at the center of this triangle between Anna, Matteo, and Michael is grief. And I was just like, well, yeah, there's grief. And there's grief on everybody's part. And I think that grief has each of them acting out in various ways. So let's start with Matteo. So as we know, she met Matteo and they are just clicking and having them a good old time. Granted, her first impression was no, right? When she met him at the bar or whatever, and they get to talking and she's sharing her passions. And I want to say there is always something about sitting at a bar with a stranger that you don't intend to see nowhere else that can get you leaning into the idea of vulnerability and openness and sharing those pieces of your story that you might hide otherwise, because you don't think you're going to run into this person outside in the wild again anyway. And funnily enough, there was this conversation going on Threads this week where somebody was just like, if I tell you my entire life story, it's because I don't see a future with you. Like if I tell you my story up front, I don't want nothing, like ain't nothing you can do for me but give me some sausage and keep it moving. And I was just like, well, all right then. That's straight from the ladies' mouth. Anyway, so during that conversation, Mateo learns that Anna has lost her mom. And Anna has learned that Mateo has basically been staying away from his family for well over a year, that he basically ran away to another country because, there was some tensions and things going on. Now, what we learn is that Mateo's grief is specifically a parental based wound. I think he feels like the not quite as loved son, not seen, not cared for, that his desires, his wants for his life don't matter as much because there's an expectation that he will do what the family has done for generations. So give up those things that you want for yourself and instead focus here, be here with the family, show that you're part of this family by doing the thing that your family has always done. But there is also another character that, I mean, he's also standing in the shadow of Regé's character, Michael. And so, moving off Matteo, Matteo is his grief is my parents are here and they it's basically like nobody really cares about me, nobody really loves me, nobody really sees me. And I can't keep being here and be in the shadow of and basically be told like why can't you be like this person? Now, I don't know if you've ever had a parent say that to you, but that crap hurts. Now, I'm first gen firstborn and favorite child. So, not really my experience in that way, but growing up, my very Nigerian parents did like to point at other people's grades because my grades were not all that, not until I got to college anyway. And they'll be like, hey, look at your friend, look at yourself. Like, look at your friend. She's got good grades. Look at this person, they're studying this good thing. Look at you. You just want to go and be fanciful and do this thing, right? And sort of using shame in many ways as a tactic to change one's behavior. It didn't work on me. It also didn't work on Matteo because Matteo was like deuces, right? Then you have Michael, Regé's character. He also has had a parental loss. Um, he inherited everything that his parents gave him, and he didn't run away from what they left for him, right? The leftovers, as it were. He didn't run from those things. He embraced it and made it his own made and he was also like the adopted child of Vincenzo and his wife, whose name right now is escaping me. I want to say her name is Grace, but I could be lying. But like, and I think in some ways almost became their favorite son, despite the fact that there are of no blood relation. He grew up with Matteo as though brothers, and Matteo sounds like he was always compared to what Michael was doing because Michael was holding up the family traditions. He was doing as he was told. He was like a favorite, perfect son, and he cast a mighty shadow that left Matteo frigid and needing to get away so that he could have an identity out beyond this shadow, so he could feel the sun on his own face. Um, Michael, his parental loss is almost downplayed in the way that he works so much. He overworks as a way to avoid the feelings of the losses that he has endured and is keeping people at distance for almost like the same reason. And very likely because he fears loving again and then losing that love, right? So it's like, how do I keep myself at a distance from people? I'm here, I'm charming, I'm funny, I'm rude, but also I don't attach. I say my stuff and I keep it moving, right? Like if I don't sit still enough, if I'm working enough, I won't have the time to to notice that there are holes in my life that do require some filling. And then you have Anna, poster child for grief, right? She's aimless. She's trying on other people's lives. Some of it is certainly like trying to escape her own calling. One could argue that she's trying to escape her own grief, except that it's always right there. It's never far. I was just like, baby girl was a scammer. That's how I see her. I saw her as a scammer, a scrub. I was just like, girl, we're doing what? I love seeing women in male dominated fields. Anyway, she was doing her own thing. You know, she's a house sitter. She's going from place to place. Aimless, not doing what her skill set is in, what her training is in, because she is trying to avoid the feeling of her mom next to her. She said that every time, you know, because she's a chef, she was two months shy of graduating and was just like, I can't cook anymore because when I cook, I feel her there. And it felt, it sounds like it feels overwhelming to remember and to feel and to love and to not have her there. And there was a vision, I think, that is also part of the grief, right? Like when we lose somebody, it's not just the person that we lost, but the future we envisioned with that person. And it sounds like part of the future envision was Tuscany. It was the eating and the trying and the creating their own space, their own restaurant, doing their own cooking together. And it is hard to continue to embark on that type of journey, that vision that was had, but to do so without the person that was supposed to be right there next to you. Ironically, I think what she missed is that her mom was right there next to her, which means that the doing of the thing puts your mom right back next to you, which means that it's not exactly as you envisioned, but it still is happening because your mom is still right there next to you. Um, but the grief was loud. So we already know plot points for the people, again, who did not leave on this spoiled video, because I'm about to spoil it more. See, what had happened was Anna takes her butt to Tuscany, does not prepare appropriately, thus has no housing, and breaks and enters into Matteo's place. She finds the key, which means she didn't really break anything, but she entered unlawfully into someone else's home, found a place to crash, washing her clothes, having her a good old time when his people walk in, and it's kind of like, now what do I do? So she decided to fake the funk. Because when you in somebody's house dancing around in your underwear, washing your laundry, having slept in their bed, and you try on things that are not yours. This is a lesson that she did not learn, because she lost that first job because she was trying on somebody else's cloths when she should not have been trying on their cloths. Got caught, was fired, learned nothing, and repeated the process when she got into Tuscany wearing someone else's stuff. She put on an engagement ring on her finger. She just was trying it on. They ready to call the cops, and her ass about to end up in Italian jail. But she's just like, yeah, I'm his fiance. So she becomes affianced, but on her own. She is told to tell the truth by the very wise cab driver. Decides not to tell the truth because she didn't want to break their hearts, because they seem so genuinely happy. So she is carrying on, learning the family things, looking at where they're supposed to get married. Like, seriously, they're very excited. And then Matteo comes home. And Matteo is just like, hey, you're crazy. Because who does this? And he's just like, no, you're going to come with me right now to my people's house, and you're going to tell them. So they get there, but I told you that his grief point is he has never been the pride, or as he would tell it, he has never been the pride of his parents. So what does he do? He doubles down on the lie she told. He cashes in on it. He wants in on the lie too, because he's also never felt that type of love, that type of care, that type of camaraderie with his family in his own recent memory, as opposed to just being like this person who is a constant failure, a flake, and a person who is maybe perceived as selfish because he wants the things that he wants out of his life. So that grief comes up to help tell lies, help continue lies. And then, I mean, as per the way it goes, the lies do come out. And when the lies come out, of course, it tears a rift between the actual romantic relationship here, which is Anna and Michael. Well, he was just like, I feel like I don't even know you. And she was being herself, her regular self, just her regular self, as engaged to Matteo. But one of the things that sort of gets on my nerves just a little bit is that all these relationships in rom-coms almost always start off with a daggone lie. Somebody pretending to be something that they are not. But also then they do get to the place where there's a revelation of the truth. And I'll say this for rom-com. Some of them better than y'all. At least their truth is always revealed. For some of you, y'all are still pretending to be a version of you that you are not in order to stay in your rom-com with somebody else. And the whole point is that they are supposed to choose you for who you are genuinely, despite your misdeeds. And nobody can choose you despite your misdeeds if you do not let the fact that you are misdeeding come out. Your mistruthens eventually need to be able to take center stage, because if they don't, then the person is still learning to like, learning to know, learning to trust the lie you told, not the truth of who you actually are. Before we head on out, I do want to get into the Anna Michael relationship and why I kind of like it. I mean, aside from the fact that these are two very beautiful people, aside from that, what I like is that they are what the other person needs. Anna feels encouraged and ready to take on that grief. Specifically, I would say for Michael and for the family that she is in some way feeling like she is adopted into. And she is, and I like that Michael was also willing to like stand up for her. Matteo volunteered her, and that's because they don't know each other. I mean, they had a day, a night, right? He remembers that she's a chef, but doesn't remember that she is a chef in grief. And Michael is the one that is ready to be like, no, you don't have to do that. It's okay. Trying to give her space and give her that out, which shows his own care, his own seeing of her in that way, which is nice. But when I say that they have what the other person needs, I told you that Anna avoided the hurt that she felt. Her thought was to flee. And Regé's thought was, Michael's thought was to not flee, to stay, but to really ground in to the point of working so much that didn't have time for the grief. So they did the same thing. They both had the same result, wherein they are in some ways kind of like avoiding some of that grief. And by being in each other's presence, the both of them, I think they learned something from the other that helped them to sit in the feelings of it all, and to know that that's not something that will go away, but that with support, with care, with love, and with slowing down, finding the joy, finding the pleasure, finding the part to be amazed at life, to be taken by, take things as a moment of awe. I think that is something that they learned from each other that made them such a beautiful match, in addition to the fact that they are very beautiful people. Anyway, there was a lot of other things going on, including hijinks with with the aunt and her affair with the plumber because he was laying pipe. You got Trifling Vincenzo, the father, who's basically telling Michael, hey, if you want to be with Anna, despite the fact that she's engaged to Matteo, take her. You want her, you should have her because you deserve happiness. And if this is the energy that Matteo has been getting the entire time he was there, I could also understand being like, you know what? I don't have to take this. I'm just going to get up out of here because what you not finna do is this. And that was quite something. Now, it does not necessarily mean that Matteo is such a great person in general, because I'm like, he's still a butthead. He could not even pretend at fidelity for like a day. It's like, come on, my guy. Especially when you're like, hey, let's do this thing for real, because it's the first time my parents are proud of me. So I was just like, y'all are something else. But this was a great movie. It was funny. There's cuteness. Lower the expectations on the acting. Or at least that's what I would say. Although I guess keep your expectations where they are. The acting in a rom-com is never that great because I feel like maybe the stories are kind of shallow, so there's not a bunch of stuff to like really grasp onto, pull up, and yeah. It felt like a Disneyfication, but it's a rom-com, and I quite enjoyed that. I give this movie a 4 out of 5. As far as like just pure enjoyment and smiles, and really had me clutching my face like, oh my gosh, she's a scammer. Literally had me in the theater like that. I give this thing a 5 out of 5. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Go watch it and then come back and tell me what you thought of it. Hopefully you already watched it, because I mean, I did say this was a spoiled conversation, unless you don't care about spoilers. If you don't, then also, in the comments, let's have a conversation. It's nice to have other people to have a conversation with about this particular movie. Anyway, y'all already know what this was. This was the Daily Donna with me, your host, Dr. Donna, where we had that conversation with a therapeutic edge. Go ahead and hit me in the comments. Let me know whether or not how you feel about the movie. Are we a yes? Are we a no? Are we a maybe? Where are you rating this movie on a scale of 1 to 5? 5 being like, duh, go see it. All right. I will see you when? Tomorrow, because this is the Daily Donna. Bye.